Welcome to the Power of I Am podcast. I am your host, Crystal Kelly. This is a show where great things are possible by great people. Join me as I discuss interesting topics with people from everywhere. We will focus on creating a life of victory by declaring with conviction the positive power of I am. Welcome to the Power of I Am podcast, and today's topic is financial wellness. With me today, I have Tarra Jackson, Madam Money, and I have Patrina Dixon of It's My Money, and Tiffany Bynum, who is a individual life insurance representative. So with that being said, I'm going to jump right into this money conversation. Money, 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 money. So that's the conversation that everybody loves to have: how to get it, how to save it, how to spend it, and how can I get more of it? So with that, we know that money. There's many people, especially nowadays, that are either being furloughed or on COBRA or have been displaced from their jobs because of COVID-19. Maybe there are small business or they've been laid off from their 9-to-5 business. And, you know, they've had to change their mindset and of how they spend money, how they're going to get money, and make the most effective use of the money that they have. So before we get into that, I just want to get to know each of you a little bit more. And I'm going to start with you, Miss Madam Money, and just give us a high level, bio of your background. Who are you? And what's Madam Money all about?
Thank you so much for having me. This is really great. I'm with my sister, so Sisters in the Money Movement. So this is awesome. My name is Tarra Jackson, aka Madam Money. I am the author of 2 books. One is Financial Fornication, and the other one is The 4 Financial Languages, which is pegged off of the 5 love languages, but we have financial languages and learning the dominant, and then how to speak in other financial languages. I am a former financial institution executive. I was the president and CEO of a credit union in Atlanta, Georgia. I am an international personal finance contributor and expert for Al Jazeera News, Black Enterprise, Fox, and several other programs. Been on the Ricky Smiley Morning Show. But I think what really qualifies me to have conversations about money is that I've made major money mistakes over my life. And one thing that I have learned is that there is life after. There's resurrection after. And so I've lived to tell about it. So that helps me to be, one, vulnerable and compassionate with what people are going through, and let them know some strategies that have helped me get through a lot of what people are going through to help them. So that's what makes me very passionate about helping people, is because I don't want them to go through what I went through, but if they're going through what I went through, I can help them get out of it.
Awesome. I'm very excited to talk with you in more details. And Miss Patrina, It's My Money Dixon, let's get a little background on you.
Sure. I also want to thank you for having us on, and this is a very relevant conversation. And I'm here with my other sister girls in the money space. So thanks again, Crystal, for having us. So as you mentioned, my name is Patrina Dixon. I'm also known as the It's My Money lady. I am a personal finance expert. And why I say that is because I attended a wonderful session with Miss Madam Money, and I had to claim that that's what I am. Why I say that, similarly to Miss Madam Money, is I made some horrible money mistakes. And then I learned how to do better by my money and be a better steward. And I wanted to go and share that with everybody. So how I do that by way of my business. I own a personal finance services company where I help individuals break that cycle, which is living paycheck to paycheck and trying to figure out what they did with their money after they spent their money, as opposed to telling their money where to go. So really creating a spending plan to direct their money where they want to go. I'm also an author of an award-winning book called It's My Money. Hence the brand. And I'm an international speaker. I've gone across the United States as well as into Trinidad teaching personal finance. I'm also a podcaster and a blogger. So I have many different ways that don't cost folks any money to learn about how to manage their money. So I'm very passionate because it's something we should all want to do, and it's not taught consistently in schools. So my platforms allow for people to get information that they may not otherwise. So thank you for having me, and I can't wait to talk more about money.
Awesome. So we have some financial experts on and international speakers. Now, many may be wondering, how does Tiffany fit into this whole, group? Well, she does fit because she is all about insuring yourself and having the proper insurance to make sure that not only you're covered in the time of need, but your family is covered in the time of need, to cover those expenses that don't go away just because you do. So, Tiffany, why don't you give us a little bit of background on who you are and what you do?
Okay, good morning. Thank you for having me. So as the other two are, I consider myself the life insurance expert. And I believe that I'm an expert on life insurance because of, just circumstances. And circumstances allow us to grow. And when we open up ourselves to learn more, then we do a lot better. So for me, as I began to learn about insurance, I started researching the entire industry. You'll find that many life insurance agents will be focused on selling one. They have one thing that they're good at, one thing that they promote, and that's it. And life insurance is not a one-size-fits-all business. So, I made it my business to learn about the entire industry so that I can go out and educate people, especially in the Black community, about life insurance, because it seems as though, as I began to grow up, I learned that many people just did not have life insurance. And a lot of it is just because of some experience that somebody else had back in the day, or something that they just don't know. And I find that people have a huge fear of the unknown. Right. So I love to go out and speak on life insurance and what it can do for you, and not just when you're dead. So life insurance has evolved drastically. Now we have what is called living benefits, and living benefits help you to use your life insurance while you're alive. So that's been my passion, is going out and talking about what life insurance can do for you and your family while you're living, as well as take care of your families when you pass away. So, often I have to create scenarios for people to really make them think about things that they aren't thinking about life insurance. And also, just not to make this so long, how I tie into the money game is because within life insurance, certain types of life insurance can be used as a conservative supplemental retirement, a conservative investment. And, by law, we cannot call it an investment, but, the wealthy people know. And I just want to get the word out to many of our middle class Americans about what life insurance can do for you financially.
Awesome. And I totally agree. For all the listeners that don't know, or that you don't know, I work in the insurance industry as well for my 9 to 5. And I have been in the industry for about 15 years now. So I do know and have experienced just the utilized when it comes to life insurance, or being properly covered outside of health, dental, and vision. People just aren't properly covered because they just don't know enough about it. And I've heard comments such as, even covering your children. Oh, that's a bad omen. I don't want to do that. But life happens, right? And so it only makes sense. And when life happens, you're going to get a bill for it and you're going to have to pay for it. So just like you cover your car, why not cover your life or your loved one's life? So I'm very interested to get into that in more detail. But, this is where I've heard all three of you say, I've got into this because, I made money mistakes or I began to research more, and that's how I learned. I know for me, growing up, money conversation it was not a conversation. And it, you needed something or, you wanted something to eat or you went shopping, you went shopping or you bought something to eat, but like talking about savings accounts or having a college savings fund or investing or having insurance, that just was not a part of the conversation that was in my household. I went to college without a college saving fund. I didn't even know. I learned the hard way about financial aid and I learned the hard way about, loans and the damage that they can do to your credit and everything else. So, Madam Money, I'm going to address you first. What was your money mindset growing up and what motivated you? What mistakes did you make that motivated you to get on a better financial pathway?
Well, I talk about this a lot in my book, Financial Fornication, as well as the 4 financial languages, is that I grew up in a spending household, right? And the dichotomy is that I grew up as a spender, but my sister grew up as a scared saver because she did not want to be like my parents who were spenders, right? So, but I grew up in a spending household. So if we wanted something, we spent money. So if we were happy, we spent money. If we were sad, we spent money. My mom was infamous for the house party, so we spent money. And if we didn't have enough money, we borrowed the money so that we could spend the money, right? So the whole thing was whatever I have in my account I have access to, I can spend it. And if I didn't have enough, then I just borrow the money and I pay it back over time, and then I just spend the money. Well, it hit me when I had to start paying back my student loans. And I'm very bitter about my student loans because I owe $62,000. And the only thing I can remember other than my education is buying a bag of chips because I got a refund. And so as a college student, I thought the refund was extra money. Didn't realize that I have to pay that back. So a refund is not a refund in the sense. And so it probably wasn't until I started getting into the destitute mode that I realized I don't have anything to fall back on. And what I did have to fall back on, 401k, because I wasn't working, I spent that. And then after that was gone, there was nothing left. And so that actually converted me into a saver, to learn the saving language. And to start building that, but I became a scared saver. And so, I hoarded money because I didn't want to feel that destitution anymore. But being a scared saver doesn't help your money grow. So I had to learn the language of investing and understand that. And then, understand the power of giving. But that's how I grew up as a spender. And at the point where it didn't serve me anymore, that's when I had to learn different languages.
And I want to come right back to that because I want to learn a little bit more about your scared saving technique. There was a point where you were kind of at desolate. So how did you even get into the mindset of scared savings? Like, how did you set up a plan? If you don't have anything to barely make it, how do you decide, okay, I'm going to take this amount and just start putting it away?
So that didn't happen when I was in the destitute mode. My destitute mode became a survival. So now, I have a huge, even though a giver does not accept gifts very well. We're used to giving. So for me to ask for money was just like the worst thing in the world for me as far as my ego is concerned, right? I kept telling myself I was an entrepreneur, but my denial was an entrepreneur that doesn't make any money is unemployed. And so I did not want to admit that and then get the assistance, because I didn't want to be on assistance, because I didn't think I was unemployed. I was an entrepreneur, right? And so it wasn't until I decided to become a dualpreneur and say it's okay to go back to work and also be an entrepreneur, and that's why I trademarked dualpreneur, is when I started making money again. I then, because I've reduced my lifestyle so much because I didn't have money to do anything, I now knew this is how much I can live off of, but the rest of this money, I have to stash it. And I had to put it somewhere where I did not have easy access to, because as a dominant spender, if I have access to the money, I'm going to spend it. I will find a good reason to spend any money that I have access to, whether it's in a savings account or whatever. So I created a mama account, reverence account, where I had that money shipped someplace where I couldn't get easy access to it.
Got it.
But then as that money would grow, in that I was afraid to touch it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because savers, they have if their savings goes below a certain threshold, they'll freak the heck out. And so I started feeling that way, that, oh my God, I have $15,000, but now it's at $7,000. Oh my God, I'm freaking out. Right. So then I started hoarding the cash, and, I became this minimalistic thing, and then I didn't pay for anything. And that's not healthy either. You know what I'm saying? So there has to be a balance in that, is that you have a savings account, but you give yourself permission to spend money, especially if you're a spender. A spender is not a bad thing.
Right. All right. I love it. Jewels, a lot of jewels in what you just stated. And so Patrina, now we know that your passion is your personal finance expert. Yes. But your passion is educating the youth and about personal finances, about savings. And how did that become a passion of yours? And what was your money mindset growing up?
Sure. I'll start with what was my money mindset growing up, and then it'll lead into my passion. So my money mindset growing up was go to work, get paid, pay that to somebody else. So meaning pay the bills. To your point, saving, credit, what is a credit score? That was not taught. And it's not, and I find that it's still not taught very consistently in households. And when you're not transparent about what the money looks like in the house, folks don't understand, and they just think everything's okay. Like, I never went without a roof over my head. I never went without food. I never went without not just clothes, nice clothes. So I thought we had a lot of money. Once I realized that what those material things didn't mean you had money, it just mean you found a way to acquire material things. Again, once I learned that, I wanted to share that with everyone. So why youth? Because if I knew what I know now when I was younger, Lord have mercy, I would have a lot more than I have right now. So I said, once I started doing more, having more conversations with school administrators and learning that personal finance is still today not consistently taught in high schools. There's a famous quote, when you make an observation, you have an obligation. So I observed that it's still not happening. I have the knowledge. Let me go in, provide the solution by way of my book, It's My Money, that's written for teens, as well as going in and doing workshops and talking to the youth. I find, and I love quotes, I'll drop another quick one. When you know better, you do better. And I know some don't like that, but I really believe if you're never given the information, the odds are you'll never do it. So even if I talk to 50 kids and 25 of them take heed to what I say, that's 25 more that wouldn't do it otherwise. Right. So my passion with young people is if you get to them early, they start to go home and talk about it with their parents. So it makes the money conversation a little bit more transparent in the home. You can have that conversation at the dinner table. Then hopefully that'll lead to some better habits. So the lack of transparency in the home also contributes to our youth not knowing a lot. So I always tell parents when I meet with parents, because I work with parents as well, it's not like you have to tell your kids everything, how much you make, how much the mortgage is, the whatever, but you have to bring them in a little bit, have them participate in some of the money activities that you need to do, that you do. And I think that will begin, they will begin to ask questions, because I think that's what happens. They will ask questions about other things we're doing because we do it in front of them. If we do the money thing, budgeting, sitting down, paying the bills, going to the bank, putting the money in the bank, they will begin to ask questions about that. And that's how you can start teaching them what to do with their money. One question I get a lot is, when should you start? How old? If they can memorize the, hippest song on the radio, it's time for you to teach them, whatever that age is, because it'll be different for everybody. So
Right.
if your 3-year-old can memorize words to the hip song on the radio, then it's time to start teaching them. And then why do they memorize it? Because they hear it over and over and over again. So that's the same thing with these money concepts. So that's why I didn't know it young. I learned it. It's really changing the mindset and getting the information earlier. Then that will help with the disciplines going forward when they get older.
Woo! You guys are dropping jewels today. So I love it. You didn't have the knowledge and you didn't have the conversation. So you just knew that you had nice things. You knew that you did not have, you didn't go without. But then you saw that there was a gap. How did you get it? How did you educate yourself or get the knowledge that you now have in order to become an educator?
Yeah, so before I became an educator, I had to get my own stuff right? Because it was jacked up. And what I thought credit was, go to the mall, fill out the application they told you, or give them the information they put into the register. They give you the card, like, boom, I have great credit because
Right.
I have all the cards for all the stores, and not realizing that, that 29% interest rate and me paying, because this was a long time ago, I don't want to tell my age here, but paying $7, $5, $12 as a minimum balance or a minimum payment, I thought that was doing something, right? And it really wasn't. It was taking, a year to pay off a sweater that I bought at a store that I don't even wear anymore. So I didn't understand that. So what I did first before becoming an educator was educating myself. And how did I do that? Research. I studied people that were in the financial space before I got in the financial space. I saw things that they did. I took some of the things that they did and brought it into what I'm doing right now. I did it by watching TV, the educators that came on TV that had podcasts at the time that were probably called something else, radio stations or whatever. But I listened, I researched, and then I'm like, wow, if I do these little things, this can make a big difference in my finance. And then that's when I started doing that. So once I got to the place where I'm like, okay, my savings account is inching, my credit is getting better. I'm now not answering those phone calls that come across my phone because I'm not afraid that it's a bill collector that's calling. I'm like, I need to figure out what do I need to do to share this with others? And so I then went out and then got certifications and educated myself in various different ways so that I can become the educator that I am today.
Awesome. That is amazing. So Tiffany, moving on to you. Tell me now, for the life insurance, like, people don't just wake up and begin to get passionate about life insurance or insurance, period. And I'm pretty sure that there are a lot of uneducated people about what it really takes to properly, I guess, send people away or, prepare for their funeral, all of the expenses that it goes into it and things outside of that, the expenses and that are left behind that, if you're in college, have a child in college, if you own a home. Talk to us about, your money mindset growing up, but also how did you identify that there's a gap in knowledge that you wanted to fill? How did that become your passion?
Okay. Like the other ladies, kind of grew up not knowing that we didn't have a lot of money. My parents never made me feel like we didn't have any money. But it was when I was in college. Went away to college and, the tuition had to be paid. Whatever payment plan my parents had, the monthly or the quarterly or whatever. So my mother explained to me, and that's why I believe in communication. I've always been, my mother would sit down and talk to me about different subjects. And at that time, and although we did not have the money conversation, it never came up. But during that time when I was in college, she said, well, I have to pay this tuition. So I don't really have a lot of money to give you, so you're going to have to eat at the cafeteria. You're going to have to stay on campus. And you're not going to be able to go out and go shopping at the mall. And at that time, many of my friends were getting credit cards. Credit card, you'd go to the mall and everybody had a credit card, and they were buying. I never wanted that. And so for me, it was like by her having that conversation with me that I just don't have any extra to give you. And when she would say, I can give you $25 a week. $25 a week these days, it's nothing, but $25 a week. But I budgeted my $25 and I made it work. When I started, I said, oh my God, what if I knew this when I was 21?
Right.
If I had known this when I was 21, look how much further along I'd be. But it made me make better decisions for my family. So my children's policies, I started those as soon as I learned about it. And what people don't understand is like, get it early, then you're locked in for life. It's a premium that's locked in for life, and you never have to worry about it again.
Now, is that for a whole life insurance policy?
Yes.
Permanent life. I just wanted to point out, because you used the term life. Now, I spent time on going into the backgrounds of each ladies, because I want people to understand that you didn't just start out with this knowledge. You didn't just start out with the mindset like, I grew up having money, so I want to teach people how to have money and how to keep money. You came from a state where you didn't know, and now you do. So now you're trying to help others know better. So, as Patrina stated earlier, so they can do better. One of the things I wanted to point out, Tiffany was just talking and she mentioned a term life policy. A lot of people still don't know, like a lot of the policies that you get from your job is a term life policy, and that means it will terminate. The value will decrease as you get older. So it's just good to be insured, like individually, have a whole life policy, one that has a cash benefit. Also, I wanted to touch base with Trina. You have a system where you utilize your budgeting money envelopes, and in your in this system, you educate others on how to budget their money for the week, for the month, by putting cash into these envelopes. And once the cash is spent, then that's it for that particular envelope. So can you just explain to us a little bit more in detail, like how the envelopes work and how you came about with that system?
Sure. So most of everything that I do and teach, I have used what I'm teaching so that I can be very transparent about my stories, to say I actually did this and it worked. So I use what was someone else's budget system when I was trying to get over my money situations. And it was, for me, it was a Starbucks thing. So I know there's Starbucks lovers that are on the podcast here today and maybe listening. But for me, I wasn't a 1 cup a morning Starbucks drinker. I was a 4 cup a day Starbucks drinker. And that is, to me, very different than somebody grabbing a cup on the way to work. I've been working from home for my 9 to 5 for a long time. And I said, if I want to do better, I have to do something different, right? And make, some minor tweaks in what I was doing in order to see some money growth. And Starbucks was getting a lot of my money. 4 cups a day, 7 days a week, no lie. And, each time I paid $2.79 for each cup. So, whoever's listening can do the math. That was a lot of money that I was given to Starbucks. So I I learned of a way that was budget envelope, and that I now have that in my business. It's my money budget envelope. And what you do is you budget for what you want to spend on coffee. So let's just use coffee as an example. So when you get paid, you take the cash out of the bank, not swiping your card or swiping the Starbucks app. You literally take the cash out and put it inside of the budget envelope. And every time you go to buy the Starbucks or whatever it is, you would only spend from that envelope. And then once the money was exhausted, you do not replenish the money until you get paid again. And what that helps with is, one, budgeting, but two, you seeing that you can still have what you want, whatever that guilty pleasure is, but you have set a certain amount for which you're going to do it for a certain period of time. And then any dollars that you used to spend on that, you could, reallocate in your budget to go somewhere else. So instead of me spending what I was spending every 2 weeks, because I get paid every 2 weeks, I set a certain amount. So instead of that $279 times 4 times 7, 414, or I should say times 14, it was, I'm only spending $30 a week on Starbucks coffee. Now here's the thing, I messed up at least 3 times in doing it. So don't feel bad if, like, I'm going to set this up. Patrina has told me I'm going to do this budget envelope, and I just can't stay within. I messed up several times. I threw that envelope down, and I said to myself, I work hard, and if I want to drink Starbucks, I am going to drink Starbucks. But then when I looked back at my goal, when I got back home, watched what I was watching on TV that was helping me with my money, and I'm saying, I want to do something different, but I'm not going to change anything that I'm doing. I'm like, it's not going to work. So then I would pick the envelope back up and try it again. So yeah, I messed up, and sometimes I still go off a little bit, but the goal is I now have a different mindset about how I'm going to do my money. So to recap, the budget envelope is you take out the cash and put in the envelope the amount of money that you're going to spend on whatever that item is. For me, it's Starbucks. Somebody else, it could be going out to eat. Somebody else, it could be going to the movies, whatever that is. Put it on whatever it is that you're spending more on than you should be, and you want to reduce it. Put that in the envelope. That's going to carry you to the next pay period. Only spend for that item from that envelope. Once it's exhausted, it's done. And then you don't replenish it until you get paid again. So again, 2 things happen. You budget, and you still get to do the things that you enjoy doing. So it doesn't feel restrictive because now you're doing it this way.
Tarra, you have something to add?
Yeah, so that is absolutely awesome. And I love that she has those, because a lot of us adults, we are visual. We are visual learners, and we're tactile. So we need to do. So having those envelopes are very good. So what she was talking about when she said, I work hard for this and I'm going to buy my Starbucks, that's called a narcissistic spender, right? Now, we hate to call us that, but, anytime you say, I work hard for my money, so I'm going to spend anywhere I want, you just need to know that is a trait of a narcissistic spender. And so you have to be very careful when you do that, because you can start feeling like you're entitled to spend it on yourself, but then you neglect what you want to spend it on. So you may want to spend it on yourself, but you also want to spend it on starting a business, or you want to spend it on savings for your retirement. So with a spender, you just have to understand you're not stopping the spending. You're just reallocating where you're going to spend the money.
Exactly.
Now, with that strategy, I tell people all the time, when you are trying to reduce the amount of spending, that's like reducing the amount of weight or how you want to lose weight, right? So you can't say, I'm going to stop eating and I'm going to work out every day because I want to lose 50 pounds in 2 days. No, that's not realistic.
Right.
Let's start off with 10% of your current weight. What can we do to lose, if you're 190 pounds, how can we lose 19 pounds healthy? That's the same thing that you do when you want to reduce your spending. So for example, with her Starbucks thing, she was 4 times a day. I need to smack you on that one. 4 times a day, just the coffee alone with the Starbucks. So instead of saying, if you spend $100 on Starbucks and that's what's in your budget to spend on Starbucks, instead of saying, oh, I'm only going to do 30, you are going to mess up. Mm-hmm. You just are, right? Mm-hmm. So you have to give yourself room to reduce and grow. So maybe instead of $100, you're going to do 80. Okay, let me try to do 80. And then if 80 works for you, let's move that down to 60. Mm-hmm. And if that works for you, then let's move that down to, 50 or 40. And now you have that extra money to spend in other areas, saving, investing, giving, or whatever. And so when you're doing that, I love the whole concept of the money envelopes. Start giving yourself room to grow in other areas. So reduce your spending like you would reduce your weight. Reduce it by 10-15%. And then if you feel like, oh, I can do this, reduce it another 10-15% until you get it to where you want. You'll find that you'll have more success. It may take a little bit longer, but you'll have more success overall.
I love it. And one of the things that I was going to bring out, so you did a great segue, was the action of doing, the tactical, because I am a person that's, I do everything electronically. So I never have cash on me. So it wouldn't, my first thought wouldn't be like, oh, I'm going to use these envelopes because then I have to go to the ATM and then I have to take out cash. And I'm like, that's just extra work for me. But you're right. When you actually have hands-on and you're doing something, it kind of impacts more. So it sticks with you and it becomes more of a habit, and you can see where the money is going and see that it's dissipating more than when you just swipe a card or scan your app. It's kind of like invisible money. So having it in your hand makes it kind of more tactical.
Yeah, Crystal, because I'm an electronic person too, I very rarely hold cash. Very, very rarely hold cash. And if it's cash, it's because I don't know, but I rarely hold cash, right? Everything is digital for me. But if you find that there's some areas in your budget where you feel like you're spending the most, whether it's eating out, Starbucks, whatever, where it can be a cash transaction, you can start with those. You can start with 2 or 3 areas that you know that you spend the most, and do the envelope system on those 3 areas, and then keep everything, because you're going to pay your rent or mortgage electronically, pay your bills electronically. Everything else can be electronic because that's pretty much regular on the day. But those extemporaneous things, try using those in a cash method so that you can feel the loss of the money and exactly what you're spending on that.
Yeah, and if I could quickly add, Crystal, if you don't mind, that's exactly what I was going to say. It's not for everything. It's for the items that you're spending too much on, and you need a way or something to help you decrease the spending on that specific item. So the whole psychology around seeing the money go away is what helps with the person staying on track. So it's absolutely about doing that. And I wouldn't encourage you to use a budgeted envelope for everything you have to pay, but it's for those things that you need to reduce on. And you say to yourself, I don't have enough to invest. I don't have enough to save. But if you look at what you're spending and the areas you need to modify the spending on, you'll find an area. I haven't worked with one person that didn't find an area.
Well, that's great, because the things that I'm hearing too is, reallocate your money and change your spending habits for obsessive bad spending habits. It's not telling you don't spend your money, and it's not telling you you can't enjoy the things that you enjoy spending on. It's just changing your mindset to have your money work more effectively in places that set you up for more financial wellness and financial freedom. And that's what this subject is, all about, this conversation. Now, Tiffany, one of the other reasons why I wanted to include you too, because I feel like it's so important that, we paint a picture and really educate on insurance, the importance of it in reallocating your money to an insurance policy or to a savings that allows you to retire and not have to work and stress every day to the last days of your life. I mean, it's doable. If you can spend $25 on, just saying, I want to go out for a nice evening, that's fine. Do it. But I'm just saying, don't do it every week. Like, take one of those $25 and put it towards your savings, your retirement, an insurance policy. I recently had a personal close death in that experience, and the dollar amount behind that loss didn't hit home until I was faced to deal with it. And even though I have been in the industry a long time, and I taught the same talk to the employees that, you know, I have to educate. And, you know, I say, make sure you have enough insurance and add up all your expenses versus your assets, and then you see what you need to cover. But when the time came for me to actually see those numbers, and I didn't know that there was a separate cost for, you know, and I don't know the proper name, so I'm not going to pretend like I do, but like the hole in the ground, you have to pay for the hole, the casing around it. You have to pay for, you know, the casket, the printing of the programs, how long they're going to come to the funeral, the transportation to and from the funeral is
a police
an
escort.
expense.
You got to pay for that.
I'm sorry?
You got to pay for the police escort.
You got to pay for the police escort. Yes.
Ushers, you got to pay for everything, the flowers,
yes.
everything.
So you attend these services not knowing that, you know, much like, you know, throwing an expensive party, a wedding, that, you know, a service is right along with it. And I personally was thankful that, you know, I was able to have some insurance, but I was not adequately covered to really handle all of the ins and out of the expenses. And I'm talking 10,000 plus. So I just want to paint a picture to the audience that's listening. When we're saying that, you know, to bury somebody is an expense, we're not saying, you know, a couple $100. We're talking thousands of dollars. So I just want you to paint that picture, you know, a little bit more of how are ways that people, okay, let's just say somebody doesn't have insurance through their job. What are some ways that you can provide them with some insurance, and what is the difference between one of the benefits of having a whole life policy? And before I go to that, I see Tarra, you have a comment.
I just want to say before Tiffany talks, I need everybody to be very alert with what she says, and need to understand who, you know, everybody on this panel are licensed insurance agents. I'm a licensed insurance agent. Trina's a licensed insurance agent. You're a licensed insurance agent. That needs to tell you how significant insurance is when building your wealth. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't protect your wealth, whether you're alive or even when you leave legacy wealth, you can be that, you know, pivotal point where you lose everything and your family doesn't get anything, or that you're not even in a position to build on the wealth because you did not protect it. That's why Tiffany's job is so essential, even when you want to budget, even when you want to save and invest. If you don't put something in place to protect what you've built,
that's right,
then it's all for naught. So that's how significant Tiffany's role is with this conversation.
Right.
Preach, girl.
and keeping, and I want you to talk about the policies that people are able to get on their own and how important it is for them to keep their beneficiary information up to date.
Okay. I wanted to touch on something that you said when you were speaking, Crystal. I have peers, you know, and we've all gone through life. We have adult children, and some of my peers are still in, you know, trying to live in their youth. You know, they still want to go out and party, and they still want to, you know, go out and hang out at bars and things on a nightly basis. And again, just like we talked about, you know, it's not about giving up everything, but it's just scaling back, because so many of my peers, when I talk about life insurance, you know, and then they realize that they do have a need for additional life insurance outside of work, you know, the first thing they say, but I can't afford that. Well, first of all, because we're waiting so late in the game. You're learning late in the game. Second of all, you know, people spend money on what they want to spend money on.
That's true.
And, you know, for an example, I had a friend, and she literally said, I can't afford to, I'd love to be able to cover myself with this amount so that I can leave this for my children. She said, but I can't afford it. So that's example, it was $100 a month. And I go to her Facebook page and she's out at this party this week, this lounge that week. One day, I'm talking about in a week. No. One day here, the next day there, Friday night over here, Saturday night over there, and of course, as a friend, I said, well, you're spending this kind of, they got offended, but, I said, you're spending money on all of these different things. All you have to do is cut back. If you cut back, I'm not saying don't go out, but go out once a week instead of 4 times a week. Okay. And you'll find the money. And I always use the example. People tell me how much they love their children so much. I wouldn't be able to do without my kids. I don't know what would happen, if I couldn't provide for my kids. But at the same time, if something happens to you and your income drops, you don't love your kids. As far as I'm concerned, you don't love your kids. So, I just wanted to touch on that, just kind of with everybody else was saying, it's about scaling back.
Nothing in life is guaranteed except for death. And one of the things that, I had actually in church, I had a pastor say, and some people may have, taken it the wrong way or whatever, but it is not the church's responsibility to pay for your loved one's expenses or for a funeral. It's nice to get a gift, but it is not the church's responsibility. Mm-hmm. It's not your friend's responsibility. So just like with anything, this whole conversation is making sure that you have what you need in order to live a financially well life and to set your children or your loved ones up to do the same. Educating those without the knowledge with the knowledge, because you were in their shoes at one point. And that is, I appreciate everyone taking their taking their time to be here and have this conversation, because I do feel it's important. Some of the takeaways before we wrap up, I just want to mention to the audience some of the takeaways. We're not asking you to stop enjoying life, not asking you to give up the things you love. We're just trying to change a mindset and setting yourself up and letting you know that you can do it too. Because we have 3 examples on the phone today, experts on the phone, on the podcast today, that have been without and turned it around to now have several, either a business, savings accounts, insurance policies, and they're able to leave a legacy and teach their children or their audience how to do better and have more. So I appreciate all of you. This is, the power of I am. So you had to adopt that mindset. Like, I am going to do better. I am going to save. I am going to speak life over myself and have a better standing in my industry. As Patrina stated when she got on the phone, she said, I had to claim it. I had to receive it. I am a financial expert. Tiffany, I am an insurance expert. Money Madam, she has a book. I am an author. I am a dualpreneur. You all spoke life with conviction over yourselves and who you are and who you're meant to be. And that's what this podcast is all about. So I want to end on a positive affirmation that you live by. Tell the audience, it could be a scripture, it could be just a positive affirmation that you live by, and where they can find you. Also, I want to go back just a little bit. So I'm going to start with you, Tarra, but I also want you to tell us what are the languages, the financial languages, and then your affirmation, and where can people find you on social media?
Right. So the 4 dominant financial languages are saving, spending, investing, and giving. It doesn't mean that you can't speak all of them. You can be fiscally bilingual. but you have a dominant financial language. And just so that you know, a saver is not better than a spender, not better than an investor, not better than a giver. They're all in the same keel. What makes them bad is anything in excess. So if you oversave, overspend, overinvest, overgive, that's what makes it bad. So us spenders out there, don't let them tell you you're a bad person. You're not a bad person. So our behavior sometimes don't serve us, but we just change the behavior. I just believe that I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. I operate in gratitude. The universe gives you what you give it. So I'm big on law of attraction. So I'm very gracious, and I have a gratitude to the universe, and I'm thankful. And so that's what brings blessing. So I always yield to the law of attraction. You can find me everywhere at Madam Money. So social media, Ms. Madam Money, MS Madam Money. You can also get my books for financial languages and financial fornication on Amazon and Kindle as well. But you can go to madammoney.com.
Awesome. And Miss Patrina, it's my money, Dixon.
Sure. So thanks again for having me on. I really enjoyed this conversation. So I'll start with It's My Money. It's My Money is about claiming it. You're not going to pay fees. You're not going to overdraft, because it's your money and you're going to do right by it. One of my affirmations is this. I am a Christian, so I'm going to have a scripture here, and it is Matthew 21:22. In all things whatsoever ye shall ask in prayer, believing you shall receive. And I firmly believe that. And I think if you apply that to all things in life, and if you believe in the word, that it can happen for you. Where you can find me, I'm on all social media platforms. It's on Instagram and Twitter. It's my money _. That's ITSMYMONEY On Facebook, I have a Facebook group. It's called It's My Money Squad. I love for you to join that. I also have a podcast. It's called The Money Exchange, and it's across all podcast platforms. And I have a blog. It's My Money blog. So you can go to itsmymoney.info and you can read on financial tips like we've shared here today. Both the blog, the Facebook group, the Facebook group, the blog, and the podcast provides free financial information. It doesn't cost you to listen or read or join and read through what everybody shares. So you don't have to say, I don't have enough to pay for a coach, because you can get coached in tips right through those channels. So thanks again for having me. Check out It's My Money everywhere you can find me.
Awesome. And Tiffany, positive affirmation, and where can they find you?
Okay. For me, my positive affirmation is be a blessing to others and you will forever be blessed. So that is my goal, is to bless others, as many people as I can, with the knowledge to do better for themselves and for their families. You can find me on Facebook. I have a Facebook page. It's actually Tiffany L. Bynum. That's my insurance page. My Instagram is Your Agent, 4 Life. And that's where I am. I'm don't spend a whole lot of time on social media and of course LinkedIn and so on and so forth. Just Tiffany L. Bynum. But
how do they get in contact with you if they want to talk insurance or apply for insurance?
If they'd like to contact me, can contact me on either of those, or my email address is youragent, 4 lifeinsurance@gmail.com.
Awesome. So I'd like to finally thank everybody for tuning in. Remember to speak it, believe it, and you can achieve it by the power of I am.